Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to our weekly Torah class, Taco Tuesday, Tuesday Taco and Torah. We had a long break before I left my son's wedding in Australia, so I want to welcome you back. It's after Pesach now, so let's get right into it. This week's Torah portion is Tazria and Metsorah. It's a double portion, and the two portions really talk about one topic. It talks about the topic of leprosy, which out of all the portions of Torah, probably this is the one that is most, detailed, and, people don't like to read this Torah because it talks about all kinds of afflictions of the body and so on. So very briefly, I'll go through the Parsha, but as I said, very briefly. It opens up with the laws of the menstruant woman, and the woman that gives birth, and how she purifies herself through the immersing in a mikveh. And there's some laws about that, and that once she becomes purified, a woman that gave birth has to bring a series of offerings, and so on. And then it goes right into the topic of leprosy. And in leprosy, there are a number of types of leprosy. There's the leprosy of the skin. Then there's of the hair, the head area. Leprosy of vessels and leather. Then there's leprosy of clothing. And then there's leprosy of homes. And it's all discussed in this week's Parsha with many details. I'm not going to go into it because it would take too long. And the ramifications of this: someone that does develop leprosy, he has to be quarantined, and he has to be taken outside the camp and live alone. He's not allowed to be with anyone, even other impure people. And he has to dress in a certain way, cover his face, and it's not a pleasant experience at all. And once he is healed from this leprosy, and there's a whole process of how we determine whether he's healed or not. The Kohen has to examine him at the end of 1 week, sometimes at the end of 2 weeks. Eventually, he's either pure or impure. And when he's impure, he has to then, once the lesion or the leprosy disappears, it goes away, he can then purify himself, again, with a series of offerings, which is also much detail, and then he can be reintroduced into the community once it's gone. And then, the end of the Parsha of Metsorah, the second Parsha talks about bodily, how a person becomes impure from certain bodily emissions and so on and so forth. Okay. Now, this leprosy, this affliction no longer exists. We don't have it anymore. It only happened in the time of the temple. We don't have this anymore. We learn about it because there's a lot of important lessons to be taken from it. But in reality, in fact, in practice, it doesn't exist anymore, because we'll see soon why. Now, I made a copy over here, 10 pages, so we're going to do some reading today. And it's going to be about Lashon Hara, about speech, evil speech. I wrote over there in chapter 13, this is where the Torah introduces the whole law of leprosy. God spoke to Moses, instructing him to convey his words to Aaron, saying, and I underlined, if a person, this is in English, if you if a person, adult or child, develops a wool white spot or whatever, and he goes into the whole thing. You turn the page to the next, I wrote, you see in Hebrew, and this is important. This is the Hebrew of what I just read in English. It says, Adam ki yeh be'or b'saro. Negatz se'es ha'sapachas ha'beheres. A man, a person in whom there will be in his flesh this type of white wool spot and so on. Now, it's interesting to note, and you may not know this, in the Torah there are 4 terms used to describe a person in Hebrew. There's Adam, Ish, Gever, and Enosh. 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 No, it's one word. Enosh. Aleph, Nun, Vav, Shin. And the rabbis, of course, wonder why we don't stick to one term. Why do we need 4 terms to describe a person? And it's interesting that in different places in the Torah it uses different terms. Sometimes it says Ish, sometimes it says Adam, in Tehillim it says Enosh, many places, and sometimes it says Geber. So the question is, what is the difference between these 4 terms? And there is a difference. And I'll describe them to you now. The lowest of they represent 4 grades, 4 levels of human beings. The lowest, we'll start with the lowest, that is Enosh. Enosh represents a person, I'll start from the top, and we'll go down. Adam is the highest level of person. This is a person that is fully in control of his intellect. His intellect guides his emotions guides his actions, and he's in sync with his soul, and he's a human being that is totally elevated or purified or transformed his whole inner character. He thinks the right thoughts, he feels the right way, and he acts the right way.
So it's not only that he's a man that's in control, he also is a good man.
Adam is the highest level.
Not just that they're, okay.
Yeah.
Because he could be in control of his thoughts and do bad things.
No, no, then you're not no, what I mean is control of your actions. His intellect is perfect. It guides his emotions. That means like this, you can love the wrong things because your mind is disconnected from your emotions. You can understand something is bad and you love it anyway.
She's saying, like, can an evil person be a dumb?
No, you'll see soon in a minute. No, that's not true. No, of course not. Because the evil person, you'll see soon, we'll get there. Adam is a perfect human being whose total inner character is transformed and good. And not only that, but his actions are in sync, are accordingly, according to his feelings, which are according to his rational thinking and so on. So he's a good, perfect human being. The next one is Ish. Ish is a person who's working on his emotions. He's more an emotional person, a person that's working on his emotions, where his emotions are okay, but not always is his thoughts the proper thoughts. Doesn't have total mastery over his thoughts.
He's a work in process.
He's a work in progress, but he's pretty good. In other words, he controls himself. His emotions are directed in the right way, and so on.
And he recognizes that he wants to be.
Yeah, he's working on him. It gets better with time. Then there's Gever. A Gever is what does the word Gevura mean? Gever means strength. This is a man who is Eizu Giber HaKevishes Yitzre. The Pirkei Avot says, the ethics of a father who's considered a Gever Gibor, strong, someone who controls his evil inclination. So this is a person who has mastery over his actions. His feelings are not always in sync with his mind. His mind is not always in sync with his feelings, and his feelings not always in sync with his actions. But at the end, he controls himself. He controls himself. Yeah, he has temptations to the wrong things, which means his feelings are directed wrongly, but he won't act on them. He has control over his actions. So this is an even lower person. The Ish is a person that he doesn't have the wrong temptations either. To say that his mind is always in the right thinking, is always in sync, no. His rational thinking is not yet totally godly and in the right place. But his feelings are, and his actions certainly are. The Gever is someone whose actions are proper, but his feelings and intellect is not yet purified. And the Enosh is the one that he doesn't even have mastery over his actions. He's the person that gives in to his temptations. Now you can place yourself wherever you want. You can place yourself wherever you want.
That the plural is anashim.
Yeah, anashim. Yeah, true. Gvarim, and then there's also Ish. is also
Right, but
connected
when you say
to.
the plural, it looks like it's coming from that last.
Yeah, but isha is also ish, ishim. Yeah. There's plural for many of these terms. Yeah. Now, so the question is, there are two questions over here that we just asked. Why doesn't leprosy exist anymore today? Why did it disappear? And the question number two is, if leprosy, what is leprosy? Leprosy is the result we know that we'll read soon from the Rambam, and it's from Lashon Hara, it's from bad talk. So the use of the term Adam seems out of place over here, because he's saying an Adam will develop a leprosy, which is the result of Lashon Hara. That doesn't seem like a person that is in full mastery of everything. He's not on the highest level human being at all. Someone that's gossiping or running around and talking Lashon Hara about people is not only, he's got, his feelings are not in the right place, and he's got jealousy perhaps, or whatever other kind of negative feelings or emotions and he acts upon them, he runs around. That's not an Adam, that's an Ish. At best, he's an Enish, maybe an Adam. I'm sorry, maybe a Gever, but certainly not a Adam. So why does the Torah introduce the whole thing of leprosy, which is the result of very negative actions and even negative feelings, with the term Adam, which represents the tzaddik, the holy person? So both of these questions will be answered with one answer. We know that in Judaism and Torah, the punishment for something is usually commensurate or in line with the negative thing you did. So, for example, let's take leprosy. Okay, so leprosy? Where does it show up? It shows up on your skin. The skin is the most external part of the person, right? It's the outside of the person, which means that the sin he has committed is a very external, superficial sin, and that's why the punishment for it, or the consequences, the repercussions, are external as well. It's only on your stomach. It's not the internal. It's not in your inside. Okay. That means like this: someone that developed leprosy. So he does have an infraction because he's getting punished for something, but that infraction is only an external one. In other words, his inside is complete. His internal, like I said before, his intellect, his emotions, he's perfect. He's good. But nevertheless, there's something of I don't want to call it shallow because it's not, but it's an external infraction, which we'll see soon what it is, that causes this person to be a leper, okay? What kind of person is perfect on the inside, but perhaps still is not 100% on the outside? This could be the Adam.
What?
This Adam, this high-level person, Adam. Yeah, that means he's perfect on the inside. I said his intellect is good and his feelings are good and his even his action. But this is a very external deficiency, which we'll see soon what it is, which causes only the outside, the external punishment. Okay, and that's why today we don't have leprosy anymore, because who's in the level of Adam today? In the time of the temple was a much higher time, a much more elevated state of existence. God was revealed in the temple. You were in touch with God on a much higher level. There were a lot of people that were in the category of Adam. And therefore, those people, which for the most part were good people, but they had little infractions, so those infractions resulted in leprosy. But me and you and most people today, we're not at the level at all. We're not even there close. Our outside and our inside are very much the same. We don't only have external deficiencies. We have internal deficiencies. We don't think sometimes the way we should. We certainly don't feel the way we should. We have all kinds of internal negatives. So therefore, we're anyway, We have a high tolerance for impurity. In other words, we're not pure. We're not at the a tzaddik, as a person that's an adam. The smallest infraction, oops, he can't tolerate anymore, so it shows up on the skin. He has to get rid of it. But a person who's accustomed himself to all kinds of negative feelings, behaviors, and what have you, another infraction is not going to turn him into, nothing. He doesn't. So it's not. He tolerates much worse. You know what I'm saying? His body, his internal reality is not the way it should be. So he's not going to develop leprosy because leprosy is for an external infractions. But we're not only externally messed up. We have a lot to work on internally as well. That's why the Torah uses Adam, because this is the result of a very superficial or external negative that's still not 100% refined, and that's why it doesn't exist today anymore, because we don't have such people anymore.
But an Adam who's so good and just have a tiny blemish.
I know what you're going to ask. Yeah.
One, why should he be punished so publicly and shamed like it's very public and ostracized from everything?
That's a good question. I didn't think you were going to ask that question. I thought you were going to ask something else, but I'll answer this question. I'll cite an example, okay? Well, the answer I gave before, the reason he's punished, you're asking why did he get leprosy, or why once he got leprosy is he removed from the camp?
If he's only getting leprosy for a small blemish, why is the punishment so bad?
To remove him from the camp.
Yeah.
And he's public.
Okay.
But then it's also
I don't know. It's not.
The very public,
Yeah, it's very public.
outside.
No, but no one's with him in the quarantine.
No, but everybody knows that he has it. That's
Yeah.
how it is.
Yeah, okay, true. Yeah.
Both of those things I don't.
Okay, so I'll answer you. I'll try to answer it. I'll use an example. The example I'm going to use is a wedding dress. Or a pair of jeans. When you wear a pair of jeans and a little oil spills on just a tack, there's a lot of oil over there. It feels if goes onto your jeans, whatever, you clean it later, right? It's not a problem. You wipe it off and it's all good. Imagine a little oil dropped onto a wedding dress, right in a place where you can see it. This is a crisis. That's a crisis. She's crying, and it's a problem. What do we do? And she's beside herself. And how can I go to my wedding like this? And the world's turning over for her, right? Yeah. Is that just because she's immature? Maybe sometimes even a bride doesn't have to take it to an extreme and go crazy. But we understand what's going on here. This is obviously a much bigger problem than someone's jeans became soiled with oil. Why is that? Because this is a refined dress. This is a refined day. This day is important, and this dress is important, and the whole event is important. So therefore, we can't tolerate even the smallest infraction. A tzaddik is a wedding dress on a wedding day. He's so refined, he's so pristine and so holy that the smallest infraction is not tolerable, and it has to be dealt with immediately. Someone who's so sinful and he's got oil all over himself. He's got stains all over everywhere, not just outside, but even inside. So another little stain is not such a big, doesn't stand out as much. It's not so seen as such a severe problem. So therefore, it says an interesting thing. Why does the Torah tell Jews to keep 613 commandments? They're not allowed to eat this, and they're not allowed to eat that, and they're not allowed to marry this, and they're not allowed to... So many different laws. Why? Goyim don't have so many laws. They can eat whatever they want. They can, Because when you have a neshama, it's a sensitive, holy thing, and it has to be treated in a different way. So certain foods are no good, and, someone that doesn't possess that level of neshama, so there's no difference what the person needs, because whatever, it's not a big deal. But a wedding dress has to be treated well, has to be covered, has to be, So that's the same thing. An Adam that gets a little infraction, that's going to break out in spots, and he has to go right away and take care of it. Regular people with a little spot, the whole inside is messed up. So we have to work on much more. So he's not only externally impure, he's also internally. So it's a different kind of situation we have to deal with. But tzaraz, therefore, doesn't show up anymore. Because we're not externally once in a while no good. We're internally, we have a lot of things to deal with. So the tzaras is no longer a reality. That's why it opens up, the whole topic opens up with the term Adam, because it's dealing with a higher level of a human being. That's why only external infractions are affecting him, because he's internally perfect. But human regular today, no one's like that, so it doesn't have that. And that's why it doesn't appear today.
In those days, did people see it like that? Oh, Yankel, he's mechutz lamachaneh.
I don't know how they spoke. I don't know what they spoke. I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know how they relate. But I suspect that this is probably how people saw it. And maybe not. Maybe it's revealed later in Hasidic teachings. It's explained this. That wasn't so known back then. Whatever it could be. But here's the big question, the one I thought you were going to ask.
Well, let me ask one more question.
Yeah.
Steve. Are they set aside to be able to not only for it to cure itself, but to fix that?
Yes, obviously, sure. 100%. To make, yeah. It's not a punishment. There's no punishments in the Torah just to punish. It's always to make, to clean, to cleanse. Now, the big question is, what I expected you to ask was, why is this leprosy? What's the sin that leprosy is caused for? So Lashon Hara. Let's analyze Lashon Hara a minute. What's Lashon Hara? Lashon Hara is a terrible thing. Lashon Hara is that's not an external thing. Lashon Hara is awful. Why does Lashon Hara happen? You're jealous of someone, so you want to besmirch him, you go around gossiping. Gossiping is not a tzaddik. A tzaddik doesn't gossip. This is the type of behavior that you expect from an enish, not from an adam. So if you're telling me that it broke out as a leprosy because the people were so holy and that's why it doesn't happen today, then how could you consider such people holy if they ran around speaking Lashon Hara? Yeah. Lashon Hara is not a holy thing at all. Right. It's not a little infraction. It's a big deal. It's an internal problem as well. It's coming from a deep problem. Yeah. So it doesn't seem to match up here at all. So I want to talk tonight. This is a topic that the Rebbe once shared in 1981 on the parsha that we're talking about, on this week's parsha. And he presented the following explanation on this. And he got into, very interestingly, there's two aspects to Lashon Hara. And that's what I want to speak tonight. And we're going to do some reading with your permission. Okay? The Rambam, a lot of this is going to be based on Maimonides. Maimonides, as you know, has written a magnum opus, a very, very important book called the Mishnah Torah. The Mishnah Torah is his work on halacha, probably the greatest work on halacha ever to be written. One of the greatest. And he speaks about Lashon Hara in two places. In two places he speaks about Lashon Hara. Once in the laws of leprosy, because it's the result of Lashon Hara, so naturally he's going to mention it over there. And he also speaks about it in the laws of character, the laws of attitudes, the laws of character traits, which is in the beginning of the Rambam. How a person should behave and what's considered negative character traits. And therefore, naturally, Lashon Hara is going to be there as well, because it's a bad character trait and you shouldn't do it and so on. But there's such a big difference the way he describes it in the laws of character traits than the way he describes it in the laws of leprosy. And I want to read it with you, okay? So I made you the copy. You have one? It's right there. I don't know if I'll read it all, but I'll give you snippets. Chapter 7 of the laws of character traits. It's the third page. Turn to the third page of this booklet. A person who collects gossip about a colleague violates a prohibition, as Leviticus states, do not go around gossiping among your people. Even though this transgression is not punished by lashes, because lashes only happens if you do something, and speaking is not doing, it is a severe sin and can cause the death of many Jews. The warning, do not stand still over your neighbor's blood, is placed next to it in the Torah. next to the law, the sin of gossip, is right away don't stand, because this leads to the shedding of blood. So Lashon Hara,
That means not stand still over your neighbor's.
that means you shouldn't.
You
You should, if you see someone dying, you have to save him, and that's why it says gossip talk is right near that, because this can lead to the spilling of blood and so on. See what happened. He gives an example of a biblical story of Doeg the Edomite, which I'm not going to go into now, where he spoke Lashon Hara and it led to the killing of many, many people. Story of King David with the Kohanim and the whole story, a terrible story, where his gossip led to the death of an entire city of Kohanim.
David's gossip?
No, Doeg's. Doeg. He mentions Doeg. You see that? Yeah. Yeah, right there, I read it.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Now, who is a gossiper? One who collects information and then goes from person to person saying, this is what so-and-so said, this is what I heard about so-and-so. Even if the statements are true, just Lashon Hara is true statements. They bring about the destruction of the world. There is a much more serious sin than gossip, which is also included in the prohibition, Lashon Hara, relating the deprecating facts about a colleague, even if they are true. Now listen to these words. Lashon Hara does not refer to the inventions of lies. That is referred to as defamation of character. Rather, one who speaks Lashon Hara is someone who sits and relates, this is what so-and-so has done, his parents were such and such, this is what I have heard about him, telling uncomplimentary things. Concerning this transgression, the verse in Psalm states, may God cut off all guileful lips, the tongue which speaks proud things. Okay. Now listen to this, okay? Our sages said there are 3 sins for which retribution is exacted from a person in this world. Doesn't wait till the other world. In this world. And for which he is nonetheless denied a person in the world to come. Which are the 3? Idol worship, forbidden sexual relations, and murder. And Lashon Hara is equivalent to them all, to all of them. That's how bad Lashon Hara is. Our sages also said, anyone who speaks Lashon Hara is like one who denies God. You imagine, you deny God. As implied by Psalms. Those who said, with our tongues we will prevail, our lips are our own. Who is the Lord over us? Like another that's like denying God himself. And in addition, they said, Lashon Hara kills 3 people. The one who speaks it, the one who listens to it, and the one about whom it is spoken. The one who listens to it suffers more than the one who speaks it. That's interesting. And then he goes on to say there's also lesser, derivatives of Lashon Hara and so on. And it goes, so what do we have from this? The Rambam over here is laying out that Lashon Hara, you know what Lashon Hara means? Evil talk. Talking not nice about other people, even if it's true. Is horrible. It's like the 3 cardinal sins. It's equivalent to murders, forbidden sexual relations, and idol worship. You're an idol worshiper, and you're denying God. It's at the word. It's bloodshed. It couldn't be worse, right? That's the way the Rambam lays it out in the laws of character traits. Now let's go and read the way he describes it in the laws of leprosy. He speaks about it again over there, which is the natural place to speak about it, because
And he doesn't distinguish between saying, it doesn't matter if you're saying his parents are such and such, if you're saying it in a positive way. Even if it's, like he just says, even if it's true, but it doesn't.
no, true doesn't mean it's positive. It could
No,
be
I know, but you think that he's saying, oh, his parents are,
bank robbers. No. If he says bad about the parents,
But it doesn't say that.
no, Lashon Hara. We're talking about he's saying things that are not good. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
Because the example
Later, the Rambam says you're not even allowed to say good things about someone in front of the guy's enemies, because what that's going to do, they can say, "Oh, you said that. I know the real truth about that person." That leads to Lashon Hara. So you're not allowed to do any of that. Okay, but that's over there. Now listen to the contrast, the way he describes the whole thing of Lashon Hara in the laws of leprosy. Let's read it. Law 10 on the bottom. You see it? It Tsaras, leprosy, is a collective term including many afflictions that do not resemble each other. For the whitening of a person's skin is called tsaras, as is the falling out of some of the hair on his head or beard and the change of color of clothing in the house. Okay. No, that's not tsaras. This change that affects clothes and houses, which the Torah describes with the general term of tsaras, is not a natural occurrence. Instead, it is a sign and a wonder prevalent among the Jewish people to warn them against lashon hara, undesirable speech. Now he continues. When a person speaks lashon hara, the walls of his house change color. If he repents, the house will be purified. If, however, he persists in his wickedness until the house is destroyed, the leather implements of his house, those vessels, become impure. And he sits in upon one, the leather, where are we? The leather implements in his house upon which he sits and lies change color. If he repents, they will be purified. If he persists in his wickedness until they are burned, the clothes as he wears change color. It goes to his clothing. If he repents, they will be purified. If he persists in his wickedness until they are burned, his skin now goes to his body, undergoes changes, and he develops tsaras. This causes him to be isolated, and for it to be made known that he must remain alone so that he will not be involved in the talk of the wicked, which is folly and lashon hara. Clear? Okay. Now let's go further. Next page.
Well, this one says the lashon hara happens far away from him personally, and then moves towards him.
Right. It's something. Well, no. When he starts speaking lashon hara, first his house becomes bad. Then, if it doesn't change, his clothes, it comes closer and closer to him. Yeah. Now continue. The Torah warns about this, stating, "Take care with regard to the tsaras blemish. Remember what God, your Lord, did to Miriam." He gives an example, not of Doeg, who caused the death of many Kohanim. He gives the example of Miriam. Interesting. A different example. What happened with Miriam? Yeah.
Get to that,
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that is the reason that they isolate him, so that...
So he stops talking to people lashon hara.
Yes.
Correct. It makes sense. You're right.
So there's a practical reason.
Right. Exactly.
For putting him
Correct.
outside.
Correct. Yeah. So he gives the example of Miriam. Now, this is what the Torah is implying. Contemplate what happened to the prophetess Miriam. She spoke against her brother Moses. She was older than he was. She had raised him, and she had endangered herself to save him from the sea. If you remember the basket, he put him in the basket. Yeah. She did not speak pejoratively of him. She merely erred in equating him with the others' prophets. You know the story over there? What happened? I'll remind you.
Yeah.
She was speaking one day with her sister-in-law Tzipporah, which is Moses' wife. And Moses' wife said, this prophecy thing is terrible. So she asked, why? She said, because since he became a prophet, I haven't lived with him like husband and wife. He's separated from me. So Miriam went to her brother Aaron and said, you know what I just heard from Tsaras? They don't live like, the Moshe, our brother, doesn't live like husband and wife anymore. We're prophets, and we live like husband and wife with our husbands and your wife, with you with your wife. So why is he separating from his wife? That's all she said. She didn't mean to besmirch him. She didn't mean to even talk negatively. She made a mistake. She didn't even know. She equated him with other prophets. We're prophets and we live, we have relations, and why doesn't he? But she didn't realize that he wasn't a regular prophet. Okay. So that was the whole story over there. See, there was no malice. She didn't mean to disperse, and he goes further. She did not speak pejoratively of him. She merely erred in equating him with the other prophets. Moses, and on the other hand, Moses did not object to any of this. He wasn't offended, as Numbers 12:3 relates. And the man Moses was exceedingly humble. It went off like off a duck's back. Nevertheless, she was immediately punished with tsaras. Certainly, an inference can be made with regard to the wicked and foolish men who speak extensively about great and wondrous matters. Therefore, a person who seeks to structure his course of conduct should distance himself from their gatherings, from these evil, wicked people, and from speaking to them, so that he will not become caught up in the web of their wickedness and foolishness. Let's go a little further. And this is the path followed by the gathering of wicked fools. In the beginning, they speak excessively about empty matters. As Ecclesiastes states, The talk of a fool is characterized by a multitude of words. They just talk and talk. They chatter. As a result of this, they come to speak negatively of the righteous, as reflected in Psalms. As a consequence, they will become accustomed to speaking against the prophets and the casting aspersions of their words, and casting aspersions on their words, as reflected by the verse in Chronicles. Okay, and this next paragraph. And this would lead them to deny God's existence entirely, as reflected in the verse in Kings. In this vein, Psalm states, they set their mouths against heaven and their tongues struck the on earth. What caused them to set their mouths against heaven? Their tongues. They spoke too much, and one thing led to the other. This is the speech of the wicked that is caused by loitering on the streets' corners, frequenting the assemblies of commoners and spending time at parties and drunkards. But, in contrast, and this is the last part, the speech of proper Jewish people only concerns words of Torah and wisdom. Therefore, the Holy One, blessed be, assists them and grants them the merit because of it, as Malachi states, then those, okay, very good. All right? What did you gather from this description? Over here, the Rambam doesn't say that the person that speaks Lashon Hara is a murderer. He's equal to such people. He doesn't say that he's a denier of God. What he says, it starts with, they speak about big things. These, people that just talk and talk. They talk about whatever. It's just idle chatter. And that leads them to talk about the scholars. That then leads them to talk about the prophets. And that then leads him to talk about God. He's not describing Lashon Hara here. He's describing something else. He's talking about idle chatter. People are talking about things, don't sit in their parties and they don't go to the bars with them. He's not describing Lashon Hara here. Lashon Hara over there in the laws of character traits, this is terrible. You go around gossiping and you're spilling blood and you're like a murderer and you're equivalent to murder and sexual deviations and denying God. It's not that it'll lead you to deny God. Over there he says you're like a denier of God. You deny the fundamentals. It doesn't. Over here he gives you a whole thing. Well, you do this, it'll get you this. Eventually, what happened over here? Where's the tough words? Over here there's no tough words about a Lashon Hara, the gossiper. He just says it's the talk of people that they're all over the place. They don't have what is this? So why such a difference between the two descriptions of Lashon Hara? So the Rebbe presents a very interesting explanation on this. He says the following: Lashon Hara, there's two aspects to Lashon Hara. One worse than the other. But to appreciate this, let me make the following introduction. We know that in the world that God created, there are 4 levels. 4 levels of a life, I would call it. Okay, things that are inanimate, like stones, earth, water, things that are lifeless. The next level is growing things, trees, plants that grow. There's life. You can see some life. But the next level is animals. That is, life is obvious. This is clear. And then there's the humans. The human is the highest level. But in the words, in the Hebrew language, in the Torah, these 4 are called domem, that which doesn't move, tzomeach, that which grows, chai, that which lives, animals, and what would you think the human would be called? Adam, right? No, it's called medaber. You know what medaber? Yeah, the speaker. The speaker. That's an interesting thing.
Where does it say that?
It says that in the book, in the Kabbalah and everywhere, all over Torah. That's
Only humans
can speak, obviously, but if you want to describe the human, is that his biggest feature? Why don't you say the thinker, the rational thinker? That's I would think a greater. It's nice to be able to speak, but that's not you wouldn't think that is the epitome of the human, exceptionalism is that he can speak. You can think, that's number one. You can rational think, and that's the greatest part. The answer is not necessarily that the speech is, in a way, the speech is an even greater, it runs deeper in the soul than even thinking. What is speech when you think about it? Communication. It gives you the ability to communicate, to express what's in your head, in your heart, inside. It gives you the ability to express. It's the greatest thing. Imagine people didn't have that ability. You had the ability to think, you had the ability to feel, but you couldn't express it. It would be awful. The greatest gift is to be able to speak and express to share with others what's here. So, speech, therefore, medaber, the power of speech, is the greatest power within the human. Now, you can abuse speech in two ways. Most people think that the abuse of speech is when you speak lashon hara. You gossip, you run around, you speak negatively about this one, and my brother-in-law, my mother-in-law, and this, that, and the other. You know what he did? Yeah, people love to gossip, right? That's true. That's very, very bad. That can kill people. But that's not the lashon hara that causes leprosy, and that's not the lashon hara that the Rambam therefore is talking about in the laws of leprosy. That he's talking about in the laws of character traits, how to live, how to develop good good midas, and so on. In leprosy, the laws of leprosy, he's talking about a different kind of abuse of speech. He's not describing people that are running around talking negatively about other people. He doesn't really mention one word about it almost. It's not even there. He's talking about the abuse of speech. You had the power of speech. What should speech look like? What should you speak? What's in your mind, in your heart, deep ideas, should be effective. It's your best power. It's the greatest power that God gave the human. And what are you doing with it? Sitting in a bar and talking about whatever. Sitting and wasting it on nothing. Now you say, big deal, I have millions, I can speak billions of words throughout our life. True. You do have the ability to speak billions of words. I don't know if that's true. If you spoke for 120 years, I don't know if we'd get to billions of words. Maybe we would. I don't know if a study was done on that, but you can speak endless. But it's the greatest power that runs deep within your soul. It's what makes you unique over animals. And what are you doing with it? You're using it for silly things, for absolute nonsense. That is and who does that? Is that a terrible sin? If you're sitting around just talking, you got caught up in a conversation and it was kind of like a wasted conversation. Let's say it was no content and no meaning and no one grew from it and no one learned from it. It was just, whatever. We had a good time talking about politics, about whatever, about football. It doesn't make a difference. There's millions of things you can think about, but that are not negative. He's not even talking about negative talk here. He's talking about wasteful talk, meaningless talk. And that's a great abuse of your power of speech, too. That, too, is lashon hara. But it's not such a great infraction. And that's what the Adam, this holy person, sometimes slips. That means internally, it's not coming from a bad place internally. He's a good person. He's a perfect person. Like I said before, the Adam is the greatest person. His thoughts are good. His feelings are right. But, when he's around people, he went to shul and they had a conversation about whatever, some silly thing. So he wasted his speech on that. Is that a reflection of a deep internal flaw? Not necessarily. So it's an external flaw, right? And that's why the tzara shows up externally. And look, what we'd say, first it shows up at your house, then it gets closer and closer, right?
That was for the frivolous talk.
For the frivolous talk, for this tzara's talk, right? For this second concept of lashon hara, not evil talk, but wasteful talk, stupid talk, silly talk, chatter, which even a good person can slip into, because he doesn't mean bad, and it isn't bad, but it's a corruption of speech. but it's an external corruption of speech. It's not coming. It doesn't reflect an internal terrible characters, character flaw and so on. The contrary, we said before, the Adam is complete with his character. His character is in a good place. But it's whatever. Speech is an external power, right? Speech is an external power. So that's where he slipped. Not in bad talk, because bad talk comes from a very bad place. That's bad. Taras is not the result of bad talk. Taras is the result of negative talk. And that, what happens is, once you start with negative talk, even, which is benign, which is wasteful talk, which is benign, it can then bring you to talk about worse, until it gets you to deny God. But it didn't start that way. And that's why the Rambam goes in, it goes in, he's saying it's an external thing, so therefore it affects the further thing that from you, which is your house. Then it goes to your chairs and your beds, which you are more connected to, and then to your clothing that are really connected, and then to your skin. But it's external. The question then is, that's why over there he gives the example of Doeg, which caused the spilling of blood. Over here he gives the example of Miriam, which it was a benign thing. It wasn't Lashon Hara in the conventional sense of Lashon Hara that people relate that as bad. She went and spoke negatively. She didn't speak negatively. She was devoted to Moses. She saved his life. She put her life at risk for him. She didn't mean any malice. It was benign. And Moshe didn't take it personally either. He didn't see it as a big deal. But that's why the Saras broke out right away. Because it was an external infraction. That was it. You have to be careful from that kind of talk as well.
Even if it's true?
100%. If it's true also, yeah. It's bad if you say it.
Miriam said it was true.
Yeah, she said a truth. Yeah. You thought that you're allowed to say things about people if they're true? Not allowed to speak about negatively about other people. But here he's not talking about negative. He's talking about benign, wasteful speech, which could lead to, once you let yourself go, it can then go further and further. But it doesn't start that way. And that's why, that's the result of that is leprosy, which is also an external punishment, an external cleansing, so to say.
So what does he think would happen with true Lashon Hara, bad?
That would be terrible. That's why he says that in the laws of character traits. He says you're a killer. That's the worst. That's very bad. Over there, he's very hard on the person that speaks it. Over here, he's not so hard on the person.
But as far as what would he say?
Who's he? Rambam?
Yeah. Would he say that Saras was also?
No, for that is not Saras. No, that's the result. That's not the result of the Saras doesn't result from that kind of Lashon Hara, because that kind of Lashon Hara means your whole inside is messed up.
So what does the Rambam think would happen with that kind of Lashon Hara?
It'll be punished in the world to come. All kinds of things that he said over there. Just punished. It'll be punishment, not Saras. Saras is for.
The one that he talks about with the Adam, that doesn't happen anymore.
No, because because most people are not at that level. Exactly. Most people are not at that level. So there's two kinds of Lashon Hara. There's the Lashon Hara that's destructive, that's malicious, destructive, and it hurts people, and it kills people, and it's. But then there's the corruption of speech itself. You're taking your greatest power, and what are you doing with it? You're just wasting it. You're doing nothing with it. Which could, once you're not careful with that, where it can take you. Now the question is, and with this I'll conclude. If it's just an external, we know that who purifies the Kohen? I'm sorry, who purifies the person who has leprosy? The Kohen. It has to be a Kohen. In this week's portion, the only one that can declare and purify this leper.
Purify, or they just say it's gone?
No, only when he says it's gone, is it gone. Till he says it. No, the only one that can purify is the Kohen. The question is, if this man is an Adam on such a high level, he worked out on his whole internal character, he's flawless, just an external, it's the end, his external power of speech is not the way it should. He can't fix himself, he needs a Kohen to do it. He fixed his whole inside, he can't fix his outside. It's external infractions. Why? Why does he need a kohen for this? The answer is, why does the Adam, this high-level individual, slip and speak, not a silly talk? He's a holy person. Where's that coming from? It's not coming from his bad heart. It's not coming from his bad mind. That's all perfect. So where's it coming from? No, but he's speaking it. Where's that coming from? So the Rebbe says an interesting thing. There's sometimes this, I'll give you an example, yeah? Someone that flips a switch on Shabbos by mistake. Turned on the fire on Shabbos by mistake. He did an inadvertent sin. You know what happens, what you have to do if you do an inadvertent sin by mistake? You have to bring in the temple days, you have to bring a korban chatos, a sin offering. You did it by mistake. What do you want from him? Why is that? People make mistakes, but that's not you don't get punished for that. You don't have to have atonement for a mistake. You need atonement for a malicious sin. Atonement for a mistake, but it's not true. Why? Where does a mistake come from? How does this person make such a mistake? There's something. It's coming from there could be some non-good within you that you don't even know that you have it. It's so hidden, it's so deep that you don't even know you have it, but it surfaces sometimes. I'll give you an example, yeah? Imagine someone, a woman, a wife has a birthday. And the husband wakes up that morning, goes to work. Hi, good night, everyone. I'll be back later. He comes back, no flowers, no gift, no nothing, no hello, no mazel tov, no congratulations, nothing. And the next morning, she says to her, you forgot my birthday. And he says, oh my God, I can't believe this. I feel terrible, and that, wow, I don't know how that happened. Now, he meant it. It's true. He forgot. It wasn't malicious. He simply forgot. So what does that mean? You're right, you forgot, but it's a sign of something that's wrong. How could you forget your wife's birthday? How could you forget your 10-year-old's birthday? Your son's birthday? What do you mean you forgot? That's not an excuse. Yeah, I'm not going to divorce you because of it, because you did forget. It's not, you didn't mean it. You didn't mean to hurt me, but that's bad. That's bad enough. How could you forget such a thing? It means that somewhere deep down you're not in touch. That's what it means. If someone violates Shabbos or kosher or whatever sin by mistake, you're right. He's not malicious, and because openly he's a good Jew. And he doesn't mean to be malicious and against God. He will never offend his wife on her birthday. But somewhere deep down, he's disconnected. There's something wrong. When a person, even an Adam, slips in talk, which is such an important part of his existence, sometimes, yeah, you did correct your mind and your heart and your thinking, you're perfect. But sometimes there's a hidden evil that you don't even know about. And therefore you can't fix it. The only one that can fix it is a kohen, someone outside, a mentor, someone that you go to that can be objective and find that. Why a kohen? It says a kohen they were naturally ones that loved people. Kohen is called the Isha Chesed, man of kindness. He loved the Jewish people. When you love someone, you can find and redeem them from even their hidden, from what's not at the surface. So at the surface, this tzaddik, this Adam is okay. But the fact that externally something happened where he slipped in the speech, he's not respecting the most important thing, it means that this can be sometimes a hidden evil that even he can fix. He can fix his open evil. And he did. He worked through his character 100%. His mind, his heart, everything. His actions. But he didn't do anything wrong. He didn't speak negatively about something. He just sat there and wasted his talk. It's benign. It's benign, but it's a corruption of your speech. That too is lashon hara. It's bad talk. Bad meaning you're wasting that talk. You're not respecting the deepest, most important, human quality, which is speech. Where's that coming from? A place that you're not even aware of yourself, and therefore you need a kohen, a mentor to fix. So the takeaway from this is we think about Lashon Hara as negative talk and bad talk, which is bad enough. But that the Rambam deals in one place, not in the laws of Tzoras. This week's portion, the laws of leprosy, which is the result of Lashon Hara, is not that Lashon Hara. It's the Lashon Hara that's more benign. But it's deep. It's a corruption of speech, which is your qualitative human, greatest qualitative human character, advantage. And that has to be protected more than anything else. And if it's not, boom, it hits you. But why don't we have it today? Because we have bigger problems than that. So we have other, we have bigger, corrections to make, and we hopefully will make them, and it'll redeem us. So that's that. So get yourself a mentor who can help you with your unknown infractions. Everyone needs a mentor anyway. But what the point of it is, there's two things. Don't speak Lashon Hara in the conventional sense. That kills people. That's horrible. And even, be a little more attuned, a little more aware that this is a powerful tool and gift that God gave us. Use it in good ways. Don't just sit there, because eventually it will go to who knows where. If you don't, if you just sit and waste your time, the Rambam says, that gets you to bed. So thank you everyone for watching. We'll be in touch. Every Tuesday we're here, unless I tell you we're not. We're back at it, that's my point. Have a good night, everyone.